We tend to meet Dr. Seuss as children through striped socks, nonsense words, and creatures with too many hats. But behind those playful lines was Theodore Seuss Geisel, a man who lived with contradiction, exuberant imagination paired with private grief, playful yet serious, morally grounded, yet like all of us, deepened and matured by the consequences of his choices and the tangled challenges of life, hidden behind rhyme, and a lifelong fear that children might stop loving books altogether. He once said he wrote for kids because adults were obsolete children. That wasn't a joke. It was a belief forged early by exclusion, failure, and the quiet pressure to prove that imagination mattered. Geisel grew up in Springfield, Massachusetts. Born on the 2nd of March, 1904, the son of a German-American family, growing up during World War I, he was teased for his heritage. The boy who would later preach kindness learned early what it felt like to be different. At Dartmouth College, he found refuge in humor, but trouble followed. Caught drinking during Prohibition, he was forced to resign from the campus humor magazine. Rather than disappear, he kept writing under a pseudonym, Seuss. It was an act of quiet defiance, not ambition. At Oxford, studying literature, he was miserable. His notebooks were filled not with essays, but with strange animals. His future wife, Helen Palmer, noticed and urged him to abandon academia. That moment, choosing drawing over respectability, set the course of his life. Geisel scraped by on cartoons and advertising. He became wealthy writing bug spray ads, an irony he never fully loved. Creative freedom, not money, was the real goal. His first children's book, And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street, conceived during a return trip from a European vacation while experiencing seasickness on a cruise. He scribbled down a rambling plot that started with a stupid horse and wagon. To keep himself distracted, he began reciting poetry to the rhythm of the ship's sway, and soon found himself saying, "And that is a story that no one can beat. And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street." It was rejected more than 27 times. In rejection letters, publishers said that children's books written in verse were out of style, and that the book lacked a clear moral message. Frustrated, Geisel angrily exclaimed to his wife, "What's wrong with kids having fun reading without being preached at?" He later admitted he nearly burned the manuscript. Instead, luck intervened. In early 1937, a depressed Geisel trudged down Madison Avenue, manuscript in hand, preparing to destroy it altogether. By chance, he encountered an old college friend, McClintock, who had just been named a children's editor at Vanguard Press. McClintock invited Geisel into his office, and Vanguard soon agreed to publish the book, setting in motion the career of one of the most enduring children's authors in the world. Mike believed in him. "You picked me off Madison Avenue with a manuscript that I was about to burn in my incinerator, because nobody would buy it," he later wrote to McClintock in appreciation. "And you not only told me how to put Mulberry Street together properly, but after you'd sweated this out with me, giving me the best and only good information I have ever had on the construction of a book for this mysterious market, you even took the stuff on the road and sold it," he continued. Early reviews were glowing, but sales were lackluster. He dug deep into critical self-examination, saying of the book, "I think I was a little aloof. It was written from the point of view of my mind, not the mind of a child." He had cracked the code that many children's book authors had not yet discovered: writing children's books from the mind of a child. Then came World War II, and the silliness stopped. Geisel drew hundreds of political cartoons, angry, sharp, and sometimes questionably immoral. He supported Roosevelt, attacked fascism, and, troublingly, supported Japanese-American internment camps. These views would later haunt him. After the war, he changed his view about Japanese Americans. He showed his growth through story, dedicating Horton Hears a Who to a Japanese friend. "A person's a person, no matter how small," read the line. It was his way to atone. Sometime later, in the early 1950s, a report declared American children were failing to read because books were boring. William Ellsworth Spaulding, a publishing executive, challenged Geisel to write a compelling children's book using only 250 simple words important for first graders to recognize. Geisel panicked. He stared at the word cat. He stared at hat. And then something clicked. The Cat in the Hat was born, which ultimately used 236 unique words. The Cat in the Hat wasn't just a book. It was a philosophy that joy and discipline could coexist, that learning didn't require punishment, and that chaos could be instructive if guided by empathy. He worked obsessively, often at night, often pacing, revising rhythms aloud. Friends recalled that he would test lines by tapping them on his knee, listening for musical balance and meter. He believed children could feel when language was honest. A separate challenge 2 years later, that Geisel could not write a best-selling book using only 50 distinct words, resulted in Green Eggs and Ham. Success followed. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, and The Lorax. Beneath their playfulness lay sharp critiques against racism, consumerism, environmental destruction, authoritarianism. While his career was thriving, his personal life fractured. Helen, his wife and early champion, who convinced him to pursue drawing and writing at a time when he was committing to a life as an English teacher, struggled with illness and depression. In 1967, she died by suicide after learning that he was having an affair. The high water mark of his personal success receded. The shame, guilt, and sadness pulled him deeper into darkness. Friends noticed he stopped drawing for months. When he returned, his work softened and became less frenetic and more reflective. He became increasingly careful about licensing, fearful his work would lose its moral spine. He refused most merchandising. The message matters, he insisted. He remarried shortly after, but curiously never had children of his own, saying, "You have them, I'll entertain them." Dr. Seuss endures because he trusted children with complexity. He didn't talk down to them. He used nonsense to smuggle in his ethical disposition. He admitted that he had been wrong and showed how to change. He once said he didn't start with morals because kids can see them coming. Instead, he embedded them in rhythm, color, and laughter. In his final book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, starts with an encouragement. Congratulations, today is your day. And ends with the line, your mountain is waiting. So get on your way. The final advice to children from a complicated man. Speaking plainly at last, and still wearing the hat. He died on the 24th of September, 1991, at the age of 87. Dr. Seuss is remembered as far more than a beloved children's author. He is remembered as a cultural force who revolutionized children's literature and reshaped how generations of children learned to read, think, and imagine.